Welcome, everybody. Can you see my screen? Trying to bring up the window for chatting. Okay, participants there. There it is. Awesome. All right, well, tonight we're going to be reviewing for the assessment. I had a slight delay with a personal issue with my family and medical concern that delayed me earlier this morning. So the assessment, I'll complete that after we meet tonight. But just right now, what we'll do is we will just review for the assessment. Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions before we start? Yeah, I'll post an announcement, definitely. Okay, so far we have people who are working on the assignments. One of the questions that was given to me is what format, what version of the file output should you upload for your assignment? And I asked that each one be uploaded separately. So the MOV file that gets created and the HTML file just separately. And because if you zip it up, then it can't be reviewed through the browser in a zip file. All right, so on tonight's agenda, we're going to prepare for the assessment, and what that entails is to go over the textbook, and you can download that right here. The first 25 pages is what we'll be focusing on for the assessment. So what I'll do is it's like 1 through 25 right about in here. So just a little bit of review before we jump into that. I would like to see how everybody does. What is this area right here? Let's just kind of do a little bit of review. What do you call this area? Everybody answer. Type in your answer and in the chat. And if you're not sure, then put a question mark after your answer if you're guessing. And if you don't have any idea, just put a question mark without a guess. So what's this area right here called? Good. Looks like everybody gets that. Okay, what's this up in here? this area? I'll wait long enough for everybody to answer. Good. Awesome. You know what that is. Okay, what do they call this right here? It's called, and I add a new one if I click right there. What are those? Okay, good. Great. Okay, good. What are the individual things here are called? Individual things. What are those called? Good. Those are frames. And if you have one with, see, if I watch that one, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a hollow circle. Watch that really closely. Watch what happens. Okay, do you see how it changed? It went from being a hollow circle, dark gray, to a black full circle with a lighter gray. What does it mean? What changed? What is happening that makes that change? It's pretty obvious, but kind of in your own words, how would you say what changed? If you don't know, just put a question mark. That's fine. I just want to. Okay. So this is an object. An object has been created on the stage. And therefore, because an object exists on the stage, this becomes black on this particular frame. All right, so this is an object. Is this a symbol, yes or no? Is this now, are all objects symbols? Good, 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 very good. That's right. What do we have to do to make an object become a symbol? You have to convert it. Right click, and then convert to symbol right there. Now, something I want to explain to you, when it's an object, it's kind of, for lack of a better expression, it's kind of dumb, meaning all it needs to know about itself is that it is a circle or the bits, the radius, and so on. It's a vector representation anyway, so it's not necessarily, it's not pixels that it's keeping track of. It's just probably has information about the radius and so on. It's a geometric shape. Probably a formula calculated, but that's it. And a color. That's all that's involved with an object. And so we can put lots of objects, and that's all that's there. The moment that we convert it to a symbol, it becomes a more complex thing. Because now, when it's an object, it's just a color and a shape. But when you convert it to a symbol, you kind of take it from being an elementary school object now to a college student. And what I mean by that is this thing now can have a name, it can have a type. These are the different types of symbols. It can have a registration, which means where on the object the middle is concerned. So this is upper left and middle, it's just relative. It even can be found in the library and located. There's even more advanced things. So as you can see, the minute that you convert it to a symbol, it actually becomes its own little, potentially its own little movie clip. And eventually you'll realize that symbols of the type movie clip, for example, are like little embedded animations inside a bigger animation. If you end up creating an animation it can be built up from many little animations. Oops, I forgot to turn off my phone. Sorry about that. I'm powering it down now. So when it becomes a symbol and it becomes its own movie clip, you can then have multiple animations built into a single animation. So you end up, you can create a movie of lots of little movies. So that's the potential of this becoming a symbol. It can become its own little movie clip. And I can create another one, and it too can become its own little movie clip. Every little item that is an instance can become a little movie clip. And when you look at the library, and over here, it shows up as this little gear, which is basically a movie clip. So right now on my stage, I've got two symbols. And now right now, what do I do? What do I click on in order to select one of these instances? Actually, the word instance I'll talk about here in a second, but one of these two symbols, what's the tool that I use to select it? Do you know? It's over there it's on the left. If you don't know, just put the question mark. Yeah, this is the selector, and that's how you select it. Now, when a symbol is selected, it'll put a box around it as well as the radius point. And then we can select, once it's selected, it becomes something that can be moved. Okay, let's go back to this up here. What's the I for? You can see the answer right there. Good. Show and hide. Good. How about the lock? What's the lock do? Locks layer so that nothing can be changed on that. Very good. All right, good. Now, if I do a right click and then I create motion tween, what is it going to do? How many frames are going to be populated or created? I can't have two. So you want to have symbols. You want to have one per. You want to have one symbol per layer because you want to animate in order to animate them. So let's see. My question was. You right click, create motion tween. It creates 1 second's worth of frames. Okay, by default, right there, 24 frames per second. And here we have 1 second. So the default is, if I'm going to do 24 frames per second, and I'm going to do 1 second's worth, when I create the motion tween, it will create exactly that many frames for me. Okay, so now, on what frame are we in the timeline? What frame number are we on in the timeline right now? Good. Actually, we are frame right. Good. 24. You can see where that red line it is. Now, how many blue dots are there between here and here? That's right. 24. What that means is that's why they call it a tween. It took care of the movement from here to here. Okay? Now, what does that mean when I get close and I have a curved thing? What does that mean? Anyone know? Yeah, what is this right here? What's the technical name given this thing? It sure looks like a line and it looks like a curve, but what's the technical name? This is do you know? It was what we just created. When I did a right click up here and said, do that, what is this thing? It's called a motion tween. This up in here is the timeline, and this is a motion tween right there. That they call that a motion tween. It's not right to really call it a line. It's really a motion tween. So if I grab it like that, I can change the path. What do I do to run the animation? What do I do to run the animation? Yep. I can hit the play button. I can hit the enter or return button, and it follows that. Very good. Okay. Now, if I click on this, it's called the sub-selection tool, and then I select it. Actually, that was the action of a select. I can move the entire motion tween, including the object, better yet the symbol. If I click on the end with the sub-selection tool, I'm given these, and with that, I can actually change the angle of that. This is what it can be done with the sub-selection tool. Okay. All right, good. So the motion of this is divided up into 74. I'm going to undo that one. You can see that, that's on layer 1. That's the motion tween. Next, because I have the tool selected, what we can do next is here on this layer, this being the motion tween, trying to get the the edit pencil to go away. So we are currently viewing both layers, so I'll turn off the objects of layer 1. Oh, I ran into a loop here. Okay, I was going to put another square on here and show you how to, I think I'm in a loop right now where it's preventing. I'm going to save this. Sometimes if you ever encounter something that's doing something you don't expect it to be working properly, I recommend that you save your work and go out of Flash and come back in. Sometimes the bug, it might be a bug, for example. I'm going to be on there on layer 2. And let's try this again. It's going to go ahead and convert it to a symbol for me. In fact, I'm going to back up because the thing I wanted to show you was if we change these values here to, let's say, 12 frames per second and 2, then we go in here and create the motion tween. It'll convert it for us. And this time, because I've changed these values, it now, the tween that it's going to be created, it's going to default to these values. So because it defaulted to these values, then it only will give me the motion tween for that large, 12 seconds worth. I had typed in 2 there. This is now going off the stage and coming back and coming on. You can actually have it go off the stage and go on. And when you run the animation, you'll see that it'll go away and come back in. And when it's off the stage, what gets rendered is what's in this viewport. Anything that's happening out here with our objects will not be what we see. It's kind of like a window looking outside, and we can only see what passes through the window. When it goes here, it's out of our view, and this is off stage. Yeah, you can have things going off and going off the stage. So this is work area around here. It's just off stage. It's like having it on your desk, but you just can't see it. All right. Well, that's good. You guys are doing great. I think. How do you like the videos that we're using for the assignment? Give me some feedback on that. I need to make a report back to the Associate Dean on the new content. Easy to follow, yeah. Yeah, that the company that provides those, I actually signed up for them. I don't know if you noticed the name of the company there that creates those videos. It's very reasonable. Okay, good. Oops, sorry about that notification there. All right, well, let's now change gears and focus on our review for the assessment. The assessment will be 25 questions. There'll be true-false questions, and given that it's the first time that these questions are being offered, I'm actually thinking about allowing people to retake the test. I've done that in the past where students can take the test and then take it a second time and retain the higher of the two grades. So, pages 1 through 25, so approximately one question per page. And obviously you'll have the access to the textbook here. And I probably will make it 2 hours long. It's currently, the one that's in there right now is outdated. It was for CS6, and because we've decided to move forward with CC, I'm updating the questions to just be pertinent to the CC textbook here. Okay. Oh, you know what? I did just think of a question, and that is the traits, the properties that are pertinent to a motion tween. You can see right over here. These are the properties of the motion tween. I want to make sure that you realize that the properties of an instance are a different set of properties. Now, to help you understand what the difference is, it would be like, let's say a person, sorry about that. I gotta figure out how to turn those off. I'm actually not even sure where they're coming from. It would be like I went on a walk. And the analogy for me is this object. And so the attribute or the properties about me, the object, would be how tall am I, what color eyes do I have, how old am I, what my weight is. Those would be properties about me. And so the analogy I'm giving you here is those would be comparable to properties of an object or an instance of a symbol. They describe the thing. Now, here, the path, and let's say I went for a walk, these properties would actually describe the walk that I went on. So that's why this thing is called a motion tween, and it has its own set of properties associated with it, because these properties describe the walk I went on. They don't describe me. It's the properties regarding the object that describes me. these are the properties for the motion tween. So you can see it's a different set of properties. In Flash, these are two different things. One, the instance of the object, and two, the instance of the motion tween. They are separate things. So I want you to make sure that you see the difference. Are you understanding me? On a scale of 1 to 5, if 5 means, yeah, I get what you're saying, 1 means I'm still a little lost, why don't you put a number in? Okay, good. All right. Yeah. Okay, Francis is a 3 here. Francis, can you turn on your microphone for a second? I want to see if you can ask me a question to help me clarify that.
I just come in late, so I'm kind of like a little bit lost. But I'll look at the video later.
All right. Just to catch you up a little bit, before we went on to our review for the test, I wanted to make sure I pointed out the difference between the properties of the object and the properties of the tween. And I was giving an analogy of me going on a walk. The object here would be comparable to me, and then the walk that I went on would be comparable to the motion tween. So it's important to realize that Flash looks at these things as two different things: the walk and the person doing the walking, or the object and its motion tween. And that's why when you select it, the way you know it's a different thing is because when you select it, there we go. When you select it, the properties panel changes. That is the telltale that you're dealing with a different thing as far as Flash is concerned. So watch, when I click the symbol here, this changes. And for those of you who have done web development, HTML, it's very comparable to the attributes of given tags. These are like the attributes of the object. So when I click over here, I no longer, off the stage, I no longer have selected the path or the object itself. In fact, you can tell the thing that I'm selected on right there. That's the name of the thing as far as Flash is concerned. That's the thing that I'm currently selected on. So it's not any of these things. So when I select on it, you can see another set of properties. Now, when I'm clicked over here, I haven't selected anything, and now Flash says, oh, you're talking about the document, the whole document. And when it's the document, it's the entire file that is going to be saved here. So it now is in that context. And these are the things you can do or change for the entire document itself. You know, default frames per second, and then the size of the stage itself, and so on. These things are associated with the document. So click on the stage, not clicking on anything, or click off stage, and then these properties change. Okay, so let's move on. I want to make sure that was clear. Okay. So chapter 1 is fairly straightforward. It basically was describing the new features that are found in this release of the software. And I'm just going to skip over this because, frankly, these things are just new additions to the product since the release. And here you can see in July it was released. These are the notes, release notes for the October release. You can see it right here. See that October release. And if you scroll up, you can see what was new in the July release right there. So we'll begin here on chapter 2 for this lesson. And actually, I plan on only doing chapter 2 for our course because it's 75 pages long, and we'll do the first 25 pages the first week, the second 25 pages the second week, and then third 25 pages the third week. The fourth week we won't do any more reading, and we'll just focus on doing our own animations. So start thinking now about an animation that you'd like to do, which incorporates the skills that you are learning in weeks 1, 2, and 3. Just give it some thought. It doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be something you're able to do. And so you can start thinking now about that. I pause every once in a while because I got to look at the notes that people are typing in. 1 second. That's right, Kim. Chapter 2. Yeah. It'll be pages 4 through 25 of chapter 2 will be our assessment. All right. And you saw where you download this from. It's right here. Okay. So we are in animation. You are defining a path for the objects to animate. We've already seen how you can create a tween. And we haven't yet done frame-by-frame animations, but one of the videos was about changing the variable stroke width. And here, the guide path is what we've been looking at there. And this is just a different way of animating using that variable stroke width. You can see it here. Has everybody seen the video? I think it was our third or fourth video that showed how to make the wider path. This is actually a new feature in oh yeah, you can save this. You can save this file. Just do right click, two-finger click here. It's not coming up. Right click, save link as. Let's see if that one works. And then click save. So what I did is I just did a right click, save link as, okay? You should be able to do a right click in here. Am I right? Oh, there it is. Does everybody see these things coming up? It just takes a second. And then click save. This is another way of saving it. All right, so just so you know, the test will be very much like the very first, focus on the very first sentence, typically, first or maybe a second sentence. And it'll be a true-false question based upon the first or second sentence of this section. So that's how you can prepare yourself. And it'll be in sequential order so that, for example, in fact, I wonder if I can show you. I'm going to show you how you can do the test and then go between the test and your PDF file really quickly. Let me see if I can open up that file that I just saved. See, if you do open with Adobe Acrobat Pro, for example, that will be a different program that it can open up in. So remember the 4-finger push, and you take that and you put it up here, and you can move them together. And then once you have them that way, you would be in one screen, you would be reviewing your assessment. And in the other screen, you can look at the textbook. So I just maximized that. So then if I maximize this one, I can do the control left arrow and right arrow back and forth so I can read the assessment question, and then do a control right arrow. And again, these will be in the order that you would run across them in the textbook. So for example, it would be something like a statement like, you can animate an object based on the variable thickness of the stroke of the guide path. And it would say true or false. You can animate an object based on the variable thickness of the stroke of the guide path. And so that would be the test question. And you would just pick true because it would say it just like that. And then you can go back and go to the next question, and then scroll down here. And I recommend that you scroll to the next section like this here, and you can study this first paragraph, and then go back to the test question, read the test question, go back and forth, read through this here, and that will be how you answer true or false to the second question, and move on. So that's pretty much how the assessment will be written. I'm not done. I haven't yet created any multiple choice or anything like that. It's been pretty much true false. This morning I was able to do the swipe, but I've been just doing. So here I can go between these three, the test, and then the assessment. The assessment, and then the textbook, and I can even have Flash available over there, so I can just move over to Flash, come back, read the textbook, and then go back and forth. That's helpful if you don't have a second screen. Now, here I'm going to ask you some questions. I don't know if you've watched the videos yet, but you notice how the car in one of those videos got smaller, and so that would be an example of the instance itself going through what is called a shape tween. So it would be a shape tween happening while a motion tween is happening. If the shape tween were where, let's use this selector here, bring it down. And then when we watch this one, this instance not only is following a motion tween, but it also is experiencing a shape tween. And the reason why we call it a shape tween is because it went from being one size to another. So there you can have two tweens happening at the same time, the motion tween and the shape tween. Now, you also know that the reason why we don't see any squares is because it went out of existence at frame 12. But if I click in here, then I click in the place of the timeline where both are in existence. So there, I'm going to change the to have a rotation this time. And so now you can see different animations happening at the same time and certain things experiencing two different types of animations. Because the thing that, one thing that you kind of need to understand is I have selected the motion tween. The rotation, it's this thing that is turning, but it's the motion tween itself that has the rotation of 2 in it. So the rotation is actually a property of the motion tween, meaning that whatever it is, even though it's this object that's turning, but the rotation is a property of the rotation. The rotation is a property of the motion tween. Therefore, that's why you see the number here and not for rotating. You don't see it here. So it's a good way of noticing that the rotation is a property of the motion tween. I think I saw a sign up here that said Francis had a question. Francis, do you want to turn on your microphone?
Okay. Let me take the hand off now that I lower hand. The gradient transform tool, I was having trouble with it and I still didn't get it to work. So I just kept going on the videos. I can't, yeah, the gradient transform tool on the second video.
Yep.
It wouldn't work.
All right. We're going to finish the assessment review.
Okay.
I actually I didn't have plans on going much later than 7 tonight. So what I'd like to do is schedule a third class to go over. I think on Saturday I'm going to be available for things. So if we don't get to it tonight, which I don't think we will. I'm not exactly sure what my plans are for tomorrow night, but I think I was going to make myself available for another lab/lecture. Yeah, I'll definitely post an announcement. All right, back to our review. Oops. Now we've been working with the classic tween animation. The thing that changed with the classic tweens to motion tweens is it became more rich. The amount of information that was being saved is now more sophisticated than the old classic tweens. Yeah, you can go look here for the old example ones. Now we know what a keyframe is. I didn't go over that. I did just talk about frames. The keyframes, when you have an object there, it becomes a keyframe where you can put things. Keyframes are where things are dropped onto the stage, whereas the in-between frames don't need to be keyframes. Every time you want to specify something, it would be with a keyframe, meaning location. And here, these become keyframes here because, like, the beginning and the ending position. The ones in between aren't, just because you don't need to specify it. Now, if we did a card by card or a frame by frame definition, each of these would have black dots on it. So, and that would be, each of them would be keyframes in that case. Onion skinning, that has to deal with down in here where you are getting clear as to what's going to happen with the tween. And it's kind of interesting because it basically is showing you a before and after view. As you can see here, instead of just seeing one frame at a time, it's now telling you where this object will be in the 3 frames before as well as the 3 frames after. It's kind of like looking at 6 frames at a time. That's what onion skin does. And you can actually make it more. You can say, well, I actually would look at like 5 in advance and 2 behind, or 5 in advance and 5 behind. So that's the nice thing about onion skinning here. Right here. By the way, everybody knows how to do a search in a PDF viewer. Command F. That will help you search for the text that's describing the assessment question. An instance, that's a concept that's new to you. The here, when we have, let me change to that, turn off onion skins, select that. Right here, it shows we can actually give a name to our instance. And an instance of symbol 1. Eventually, we're going to show you that you can have multiple, if I forgot to create a new layer here. You can have multiple instances of the things that are in your library, and you can give these different instances different names. It's kind of like, kind of a crude analogy is having children, where parents have children, and each of the children can basically have the same genetic makeup as their parent. Sorry if this is a little bit of a raw analogy, but And in the same way that we would name each of our children separate names, the same thing would go for each of the instances of that symbol that we would use. It would have its own name. But you got to make sure you don't put spaces in it. Let's do that again. I go to the library, drag it down. Let's see, what did I do? See, I bet you it's one of those situations where, see, I'm going to watch, I'm going to just do a save. Going to exit out of Flash, go back in. It's unfortunate, but sometimes it clears out little issues that look like bugs. It's a handy little thing to do. Yeah, see, it's back. Isn't that weird? So select it. Click on Properties. Give it a name. Square 2. The reason why I can't have a space is because when you do ActionScript programming, it doesn't like it with spaces in the name. Click on it. Make sure you select the instance name and give it a name. So once again, these two instances are related with each other because they came from, quote unquote, the same parent symbol. Now, when I change the parent symbol, let's say I change its color, and I'm going to try to change its color. Now, by selecting it, I'm actually editing the original symbol because now I've selected the symbol itself. And so when I go and look at see here, I'm down to symbol 1 now, editing symbol 1. I come back up to the top with all my scenes. Now, both of those, because they both came from the same symbol 1, and because I was actually editing symbol 1, they both inherited that from their parent. But, and the parent symbol. So they both got changed. If I were to just click on a single instance, you can change some of the color effects and so on of the individual instance itself. But that will only just change the instance itself. It won't change the parent symbol. So, so now when I do my animation, this retains its own traits because I was just tweaking the instance. I wasn't tweaking the original parent symbol that it came from. So these are instances of that. Now, if I were to delete this symbol here, both of those would go away because they both are dependent upon their parent existing there. All right, so let's get back. We're going to finish up here on our textbook review. So that's an instance, what I just showed you. A group is where you actually select multiple things and you can give them a name. Text, you can actually animate text, and we'll learn how to do that. You can watch some of these videos here. You know how to do a classic tween animation. Okay. So review through this here. You don't need to worry. It's going to be fairly straightforward because I understand that everybody's a beginner at this. It'll be about one question per section. See, here we have step-by-step instructions on how to create some of these things. And this is the new animation versus the old classic animation. Here it's making a comment about the action script. That's actually the third class that you take. You have 3 flash classes. Those of you who are in bachelor's programs, you have three flash classes. In the third flash class, you learn programming language called ActionScript. It's like JavaScript. Here's the differences between motion tweens and classic tweens. Here we're tweening an object. It's actually words. So in the same way I've been tweening objects as like circles, then the same thing you can do with a word on the screen. Between other properties with the property inspector, that's what we were looking at. How to add more than one tween to an existing tween layer. We edited the motion path. We did that. We did this. And that's it. So we'll go as far as page 25, right to here. And mostly true false questions. And because it's the first time we've taken, the first time I've taken it, first time that we've done this assessment, there's a highly likely that I'll let you retake it because you're kind of guinea pigs on this new content, so you kind of need a break. All right. Well, I didn't plan on going much longer than an hour tonight. I haven't been able to follow all the text here. Hold on. I'm trying to scroll up and see if I missed anything, or see what I missed actually. All right. What I'm going to do is you're welcome to stay in the classroom. I'm going to officially end the class. I'll stop the recording, and but I'm not going to exit the class. Let's see here. Gotta stop the recording. Stop the share. Stop